So the two major figures in terms of, I guess, this Protestant Reformation, you have Martin Luther, I guess, in Germany. Eventually, in a sense, Lutheranism would spread, but not too far. It spread into, in a sense, neighboring territory, especially in Scandinavia. So you have, for example, I guess Sweden, usually sort of the Baltic states, I guess Estonia, Latvia, where in a sense, I guess Lutheranism was established. The other main figure of the Protestant Reformation was from France. It was, I guess, a person by the name of Jean Calvin, who was, I guess, studying in Paris. His name was Latinized as Calvinus, which eventually in Jean became John, so hence John Calvin. So Jean Calvin, eventually Calvin, became, in a sense, central in a sense to, I guess, Protestantism. He established a very different type of Protestantism, I guess, from that, I guess, of Luther. And does anybody know what is usually the one thing that we associate with, I guess, with the Calvinists?
Predestination.
Predestination, exactly. And what is predestination?
It's chosen ahead of time who gets saved in your whole life, and everything's all chosen ahead of time. You don't have a lot of choice.
Exactly. So the idea of whether you will be saved is already, in a sense, is already known, but the fact whether or not you are saved is, in a sense, can be seen in your, in a sense, in your life here, I guess, here on earth. Because if we look, what are some examples of Calvinist, I guess, faiths? Some of the faiths, in the sense, were influenced by the ideas of Calvin, let's say, in Europe. You can think of Scotland. Yes, the Church of Scotland was influenced by, I guess, John Knox, as somebody, in a sense, a follower, I guess, of the ideas of Calvin. What are some of the other ones? Think New Salem. Think New England.
Puritans?
The Puritans, so their ideas, again, the much more dour, very conservative, very, in a sense, the Puritans were, in a sense, from England, of course, but they were also influenced, in a sense, by the ideas, I guess, of Calvin. Others include, for example, in France, were the Huguenots, which are also, in a sense, from Calvin, and also Switzerland. So, for example, you have, in a sense, John Calvin fled France and established himself in Geneva. So, in certain ways, so Switzerland, I guess, became, I guess, sort of, I guess, central to, in a sense, I guess, to the development and, I guess, the spread of, I guess, Calvinism elsewhere, I guess, elsewhere in Europe. So we have, in a sense, of the ideas, in a sense, were, and a lot of, in a sense, the attacks, in a sense, the changes was changing, sort of, for example, getting rid of a lot of, I guess, of the paintings, of the, I guess, sense, the way of the altar, much more having a focus on, reading the Bible, but also having a much less, getting rid of a lot of the ritual associated with Catholicism, getting rid of a lot of the, for example, the role of Mary, for example, is a lot different in Catholicism and, I guess, let's say, more, I guess, in Protestantism. The role of the saints in Catholicism versus that of Protestantism. So in many ways, a lot of Protestantism was getting rid, or getting, I guess, shedding a lot, I guess, of the ritual and a lot, I guess, more of the beliefs, in the sense that were, in a sense, associated, I guess, with the Catholic faith. So again, attacking the ritual and the images. So how you designed a church, in a sense, a Protestant church would be very different from that, I guess, of a Catholic church, and especially if it was a Calvinist, in a sense, versus, let's say, a Lutheran versus, I guess, a Catholic one. So what you have, in a sense, is the spread of Protestantism in France, with, I guess, with the Huguenots. But there is nonetheless a conflict, I guess, a simmering conflict between Catholics versus Protestants in France. And one of the turning points, in a sense, was the Placards. So during the night of October 17th to Sunday, October 18th, 1534, anti-Catholic posters appeared in public places in Paris and other locales across France. One was placed outside the King of France's bedchamber. So if you think of it, so this was it's the equivalent to, let's say, having, oh, I don't know, an anti-American poster showing up, I guess, in the White House outside, basically, I guess, you know, the bedroom of, I guess, of George W. Bush. So you can imagine that raised a lot of questions for, I guess, for the king, saying, am I really safe? Can I really trust, I guess, the Protestants? Is this something, in a sense, that can be, in a sense, a threat to my personal safety, but also to my, I guess, to my power and to my regime? And we'll talk about, so 1534, this is right in the middle when, I guess, we'll talk about later, when, I guess, when Cartier was sailing to, I guess, to the Americas. So you're imagining, so in a sense, a lot of sort of the early, I guess, the early stage is going to be set in the middle of, I guess, a religious war. So I guess this placard sparked, in a sense, the outrage of the king and, in a sense, the reaction. So after this event, you know, presumably fearing for his safety, John Calvin fled Paris, fled France, and went to Geneva, in a sense, where he established, I guess, almost, I guess, his rule, almost, I guess, as a theocracy. But he was still active. So from there, speaking French, of course, being able to publish in French, he was printing, publishing his ideas, sending his, I guess, his followers, of course, to France in a sort of sense to spread, I guess, his ideas and to spread, I guess, the Calvinist Huguenot faith. And from there, of course, to the Netherlands, to England, to Scotland, to Poland. So in a sense, the idea from, I guess, from this base in Geneva spread outwards. And the number of the faithful grew. So in a sense, so in France, you have, I guess, there were more than 2,000, I guess, congregations. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, if a congregation was like roughly 1,000 people, so that would mean what, roughly 2 million, I guess, 2 million people. So you'd have, in a sense, so our faith, in a sense, started, in a sense, from one person, I guess, nailing his thesis to a church door, quickly became, in a sense, followed by millions of people, in a sense, I guess, in France. And more importantly, a lot of the elite became, in a sense, converted, I guess, to Protestantism. So especially, I guess, a lot of the princes, especially, I guess, in a number, I guess, so the elite, I guess, became, I guess, converted to Protestantism, which again would have an impact on who would be the next king and who would be, in a sense, what would be their faith.